I want to talk about how you can reevaluate your process of reinventing yourself. How's it going, reinventors? I'm Amelia. This is Reinventing You. I am filming this video. It's a 3-part video, but I'm doing it all at one time. So you're going to see the beginning notes in the beginning, all 3 videos. You're probably going, wait, I just saw this yesterday or 2 days ago. But I wanted to really break this down, mainly because I wanted you to have time to think about it and really think about each part of the 3 parts in terms of reevaluating your reinventing journey. Now, this channel is all about inspiring you to take a reinventing journey so that you can live a life of joy, fulfillment, and purpose. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you and to ask if you would please subscribe to this channel. One of the ways that you can help me if you're already subscribed to this channel is to go below and leave a comment. If you would do that, it really helps me out. And now for part 1 of reevaluating your reinventing journey. I have to say right here, my cat is playing with a rolled up piece of paper, so you may hear that in the background. So I have to have that disclaimer first. Part 1, we're going to look at the past, part 2, the present, and part 3, of course, the future. So in part 1, we're going to consider the past. I'm doing this in 3 parts. For one thing, we all need some time to think about these questions, not rush them. And this is a lot of information to kind of absorb and really focus on at one time. So I just felt like it's best it was in 3 parts. If you would like, if you're somebody who has to write things out, you may want to grab your tablet or your computer or maybe a pencil, a piece of paper, and be ready to write some questions down and put your thoughts on paper or on the screen. If that is not the way you process, you might want to go for a walk and think about these things, or even call up a friend and say, well, what do you think? And just get some feedback, because one of the things that we have to do in this period of time where we have been forced to make huge changes that we didn't plan for in the middle of a global pandemic is that we really need some time to process that we weren't given at the very beginning that all of this started. I am taping this and it is May 3rd, and all of this started really seriously in where I am about March 1st. Before that, we'd heard about the coronavirus and everything, but that's not long. I mean, that's like 2 months time, and that's really not long enough to really get a hold of where we've been and where we're going. I know that you may be watching this video and time has passed and we're in a different time period. Something else may have happened in your life. But whenever we go through major changes that we were not responsible for, perhaps a loved one passed away, or we had some economic changes that we weren't expecting, or our own health has been affected in some way, whenever we have these changes, this is the best time to reevaluate our reinventing process. Sometimes we have found ourselves where we've reinvented ourselves and find out that we need to do that process again. And so this is also helpful. As you think about these things, like I said, write them down, talk about them, mull them over, take some time to really process. I want us to go back before everything changed, whether you were talking about the global pandemic or a significant change in your life, something that happened, you had no control over it, it changed the way you were doing things. I want us to start by thinking about if you were going through a reinventing process or were contemplating reinventing yourself. So I want us to go and step back there. Where were you before all of this started? I just want you to just think about what was going on in your brain, what was going on in your life, what were some of the goals you had, the plans you had, the dreams you had, all of those things. The first thing I want us to think about was, what were you thinking? And that's not a negative thought, but what was going on in your mind? What were you thinking about? What were the things that you were considering? What made you think, I need to reinvent myself? Perhaps you were having problems with a partner, and then the stay-at-home coronavirus happened and you got stuck with that person for a period of time. So you're coming out of all of this, or in the middle of this, in a very different mindset. But think back, What was happening before everything started? What were you thinking to yourself? What were you saying, I need to reinvent this part of my life? And why were you thinking that? What were the things that brought you to that conclusion? I know that when I decided that I needed to reinvent myself, there were a lot of things going on, but one of the biggest things was burnout and the fallout from burnout. That is, if I was burned out, then I might find myself doing something really foolish or stupid. And so I knew that I needed to make some major changes because of that. So just think about those kinds of things. What was going through your head? What were you thinking about? The next thing that I want us to kind of think about is in terms of challenges. Now, it's really easy here to talk about failures, but now I want to think about challenges, because failures means one thing. Challenges can include failures, but it can also include things that you were wrestling with at the time. What are some things that you didn't do right? What are some mistakes that you made? What are some things that you even hate to admit to yourself that you did wrong? What were some things you did not handle well? What were some things that were being thrown at you that you were like, wait, where's this coming from? Those kinds of challenges. Maybe you were finding yourself physically unable to do things. Maybe you were finding some economic challenges. What all was going on there? I want you to just think about those things for a moment. And if there were some failures or things you didn't do right, if you could go back now, how would you change those things? What would you do differently? And on top of that, what lessons did you learn in the experience? Because failure isn't all bad. It can often help us to see different ways that we need to do things, or help us to see weaknesses that we didn't know we had, and it can help us be stronger in the future. After challenges, think about the things we did well. Just think to yourself, what were some of my accomplishments? What things did I do well? Maybe you won an award, celebrated an anniversary of some type, or a major milestone at work or in your life. What were some of the things that you were able to accomplish at the time and felt good about and wanted to continue or wanted to incorporate into reinventing yourself? What were some of the accomplishments and celebrations that you had before everything changed? The next thing I want you to think about is, what were your dreams? What were you visualizing for your future self? What were some of the things that you said, I really would like to accomplish these things, or these are my goals, or I would really like to do this before I reach this age, or take the next 5 years and do this? What were you imagining your future self to be like? Really, you're going to have to recapture those thoughts. No matter what has happened in the present, go back in the past and think about all of those things that you dreamed about and set goals for. Now, this next part may be something that you actually didn't do. Maybe you didn't have time. You were just in the sort of drawing board stage of reinventing yourself, or maybe you had some doubts about what you were thinking about. But I want you to think, what were some plans you had made? Perhaps you had planned on changing jobs, leaving a partnership, doing some changes in your health. Maybe you'd written down some things, or maybe you just kind of thought about them in your head and they really hadn't gotten on paper or on the computer yet. What were some plans? Now, it's possible you had not gotten to that stage. That is fine. But if you had, what are some things that you had planned to do? What are some major steps or minor steps or little baby steps that you had said? What are your action steps that you said, okay, I need to do these things? Maybe you got some of those accomplished, maybe you didn't, but just kind of think about those, write those down, think about what you did get done, what you didn't get done, and just kind of hold those in your head. In this part of reevaluating our reinventing journey or our reinventioning process, we have thought about the past. We have considered what were our dreams, our accomplishments, our challenges, our plans. Where is our brain? What were we thinking about before everything started? And like I said, it doesn't have to be about the pandemic. There are a lot of curveballs that life throws at us that we have to deal with. Things that are unexpected, we did not plan on happening, and we have to spend some time reevaluating what happened in the past. So this has been just a time for us to kind of of go back in time and think about those things. It might be helpful if you're able to go someplace that you relate to the past. Maybe you had been able to go to work and you now can go back and sit and think about where you were at the time. Maybe that will help bring up some memories, or just talking to somebody. You know, what was I thinking? What were some of the things that were coming out of my mouth? What did you hear me say? All of those things can be helpful for you to think about the past. Now, before you rush out and say, oh, okay, now I got to think about the future, I just want you to stay in the past for a moment. We're not going to stay there for long, but think about the 5 topics that I have mentioned in this video. Really seriously delve deep, really kind of go back in time, take your little time machine and go back and think about all of these things. I promise these will help you both in the present and in the future. I hope to see you again in the second part. If you haven't checked out some of my other videos, they're here on the screen. If you haven't subscribed, please go below, click on the red button and do that. And share this video with somebody you would think needs to reevaluate their reinventing process. Have a great one.